Do you want to know who sucks? These 5 players. So let's buy them low in fantasy basketball. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and I have once been described as having a sleeper build. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Also go to LockedOnDaily.com. Newsletters, favorite team, it's all there. Sign up, it gets into your inbox every day, and you'll find out all of the information about your favorite team, or whatever team you want to find out about. It's all there. Don't forget, we've got a live trade deadline show, 1 p.m. Eastern, Thursday, February the 6th. Go and chuck that in your calendars. We'll be ripping jokes, we'll be ripping analysis, we'll be talking about players that you like that I don't, and vice versa. It's all going to be there. So why would you want to miss out on it? Let's talk buy low players. Let's look at, it is National Actually, it is National Hot Sauce Day. Now, I am in the future, obviously, 22nd of January for me here. Those of you up in the United States, Canada, it's January the 21st. So you got a day to prepare. National Hot Sauce Day, 22nd of January. What's your favorite? If you want to go mass market, Crystal, probably the GOAT. Frank's pretty good. Tabasco's fine, right? Green Tabasco better than red. Let's clear that up. Crystal's a good hot sauce, but the bespoke hot sauces. I don't want to go too hot. To bomb, too hot. Way too hot. Los Calientes, not bad. What's your favorite hot sauce? And tell me, what is your most unusual use of hot sauce? Yeah, I guess that's it. That's it. Let's look back at the buy lows that we did 2 weeks ago. How did they pan out? And a quick reminder, the ranking numbers that I put up for category leagues are weighted -1 head-to-head per game rankings. I weight them through years of analysis, through years of statistical modeling to determine what I believe is the best way to evaluate a player based on the vagaries of daily head-to-head category leagues and the way that we play the game. Okay? The weighting is... it's like 1, it's a straight up weighting for points. It's like 0.95 for rebounds, 0.85 for assists, and then it's 0.6 for steals, blocks, field goals, threes, and free throws. That's the way that I weight it to give those numbers. And then it's -1 as well. Okay? So if you want to know what those numbers are, that's what they are when I talk rankings. Cool? We good? Let's do it. 2 weeks ago, these were the 5 guys that I talked about as buy lows. Alperen Şengün. He was the 63rd ranked player. Since then, he is 37th. There were some obvious indicators of things he improves on. I think he's got room to get better than this. I'm not certain that it's going to always happen, but that's okay. We've got an improvement there. That's a W. Devin Booker, even though he sucked yesterday, he was 83rd. And since then, he's been 9th, including that bad game yesterday. So he was flying. He probably... he would be a real big sell high if he hadn't have sucked in the last game. And that's where buy lows and sell highs can get tough, because someone might have 3 weeks of really good games, but if they stink in the one before, you can't really sell high off a bad game. Much like you can't really buy low when someone's been bad, excellent. You can't say, well, I'm buying low based on what you've done the last 2 weeks because they just went crazy. So, yeah, the book is still like 9th despite yesterday. OG Anunoby, he improved. Not as much as I hoped. He was 194th, and now he's 162nd. If I honestly think if you're in a points league, I don't think you need to roster him. You can, because the minutes are gigantic, but in a lot of cases, streaming through that spot, turning a 3.8 game on average per week slot, plus injury risk, into 5.5 games per week in a points league for OG, I think works better. Jeremy Sohan. Well, that was a great one, wasn't it? I said, yeah, look, I think people are a bit worried about this back. He's fine. He's returning. He was 145th. There's some value here. Hasn't played since. So that was an absolute L. I do believe that he will return on Thursday in the Paris games, and then it'll be a slow ramp up. So there is still a buy low in place there, but obviously not great. And the last one was Emmanuel Quickly, who's played I think one game since we did that. He was 80th. He's 78th since. That's basically a wash, and I hope that he's back soon. I really, really do. Let's talk about buy lows now. 5 names to talk about. Remember, these buy lows, if the 5 names I'm talking about, these are not the only buy lows that exist. I can give you 50 different players who are buy low players. If someone is on the buy low list, that does not mean that you have to go and trade for them. Doesn't mean it at all. It means if you get a decent value in a trade because the other manager's panicking, that's good. If that player or buy low is on your team, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Years and years of me doing this, it's not always going to hit, but the majority of the ones that I put out as buy lows, they improve. So if they're on your team, it's almost like you go, wow, doesn't get worse from here, it probably gets better. That's your general way of looking at it. Good, we got the rules down. Let's do it. Paolo Banchero. This is the opposite of what I just talked about the Devin Booker scenario, because Paolo's last game stunk, man. He's coming back from injury. There are people who just don't like what Paolo does from a fantasy category perspective. Absolutely. Remember also on this, when you're watching this on YouTube, the stats at the very bottom of the screen, they are his full season stats. That's his full season numbers. Paolo is still ramping back up. He's playing 28 minutes a night, but these are often a good time to strike on a buy low. The player's been out for a long time. They come back, and then after the first 3 to 4 games, the person goes, I waited for this, because they're still not there. Now, most savvy managers will be fine with that. The double on extras, you guys won't be like, oh, well, what am I doing with Paolo? But the concerns about Paolo's game are amplified. Because look at these numbers, man. 43% on twos. Come on, man. You can say that he's bad and he struggles and that's why he's an unrosterable category league player, which some people say. Which, of course, they're wrong. But they say that. But he's not this bad. He's not going to be this bad. He's not going to shoot this poorly. He's at under 42% from the field. He's almost 4 turnovers. He's only taking 4 threes a game. He's only averaging 21 points. He's averaging 21, 6, and 4 since he returned. These numbers are not going to be this bad. He is the 79th ranked player. I believe that's him again. My -1 head-to-head category rankings. I think he's a top 40 guy. In points leagues, he's about 9 points under my projection. So you don't have to give up a top 50 player to get Paolo at the moment. I don't think. I think if you gave a top 70 guy, a top 60 guy, because again, people will look at straight 9-cat numbers and they will tell you how bad he is. Now, the problem with that is that the people who likely have Paolo on a roster aren't the people who believe in a straight 9-cat ranking. So that does become a little bit tricky. But again, he's back. People have waited so long and they go, what are we waiting? What are we doing? He's worse. The shooting's bad. France is coming back. What are we going to do here? So I think there is room here for Paolo, who, again, if I want to look at the straight 9-cat ranking over since he returned, it's 174th. He's 157th for the season in straight 9-cat numbers, which, again, tells you, remember, a standard league, not including injury slots, he's 156 players rostered. He's 157th. So, again, that would tell you not a rosterable player. That's why those rankings don't tell you, not even that they don't tell you the full story, they tell you an incorrect story, which is even worse. Let's go to Cleveland. Evan Mobley. I like to hit a double banger, right? You know, you guys are all double bangers. You love banging one side and the other side, and you're hitting on both ends. And that's where the value of percentages in evaluating players' values, 3-point percentage, 2-point percentage, field goal percentage, whatever, even free throw percentage, because it has double influences. And someone like Mobley at the moment, not only is he currently dealing with a calf strain, which probably isn't super serious, but might cost him a few more games. So he's out. He's on the shelf. He might be limited when he returns. All right, there's that part of it. And then in the games that he has played, he hasn't been as good. So you've got the production down and now not playing. Double banged into making it look worse. I think he's a 3rd-round guy, maybe top 30 player rest of season. He's 70th in the last 2 weeks. He's I think he's 4 or 5 fantasy points under where he can get to. He can be like a 39 guy. He's averaging 19 and 9 for the season. The minutes are not super high because of the way or how good the Cavs are. And I don't really see them not being that good as we move forward. But part of the reason is okay, so his usage is down at 20%, but he's just not blocking any shots. 0.4 steals and 0.8 blocks over the last 2 weeks for Mobley. If you want to use the term stocks, which obviously is an abhorrent term, he's at 2.3 for the season. He's at 1.2 over the last 2 weeks. His usage for the season is 23. His usage over the last 5 games is 20. And this has nothing to do with minutes played. It's nothing to do with injury. It's just a lean patch from him. He's only taking 7 shots from 2 over that time frame. He's at 9.6 for the season. So it's the double bang. It's the defensive stats have gone. It's the minutes are not great, but the usage is down. The shots are down. And he's hurt. Look at him as a third-round guy. Don't have to give up a third-round player. Maybe it's a fourth-round player, sort of, you give up. Like, he's averaging 35 fantasy points over the last 2 weeks. Give up a 35 fantasy point player. I think there's way more that Evan Mobley is going to be able to produce for us, and that makes it a W. Obviously, if something goes wrong and this injury is a way long-term thing, it's risky. But that risk is baked in, and that brings the price down, I believe. Today's episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. What is Game Time? Well, it's where you get tickets to go watch teams like the Cavs and players like Evan Mobley. Or it might be music or theatre or comedy, whatever it is. Game Time has those tickets, and it takes the fuss, it takes the annoyance, it takes the guesswork out of getting those tickets for your favourite events. And their new feature, Game Time Picks, filters out the fluff. I know that you guys would love a fluff filter for so many different things in your life. I can't provide that, neither can Game Time, but they can provide that for tickets. And that is what they do. You don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of ticket options. You've got the views from your seat. So when you go into Game Time and look at the tickets, you know exactly what you're going to see, what your sight lines are going to be, and how good the ticket actually looks. And you don't have to worry about where's the value. Look, Game Time Picks tells you that. It just shows you the good tickets. Plus, the all-in pricing on the app means that you get to see the full cost straight up front. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for 20% off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. We've got 3 more buy lows to do. So let's go and do them. And this man's been on this show before. It's Tyrese Haliburton. But that's what buy lows are about. And sell highs. Think of it like day trading. Is that a real thing? I think that's a term, or is that a term made up by the movies? I don't know. But that's okay. It's about the stock market. It's about fluctuations. It's about, hey, this guy's down, buy. This guy's too high, sell. Oh, now he's down again, buy again. Oh, now he's high again, sell again. If you were in a league that was actively trading with a couple of managers who are a little bit trigger happy, you could buy and sell a player 4 or 5 times for the year and get like a Haliburton who you might have picked in round 1, right? Or someone that they picked in round 1 and you got him for a top 50 player, and then he was rolling and you sold him for a top 15 player, and then he struggled again and you bought him back for a top 50 player. And in the end, like, you've been able to just extract all this extra value. All right, that's you've turned like a top 50 player or 2 top 50 players into 2 top 15 players by doing those sort of moves. Yes? So yeah, Haliburton struggled. Ramped back up, looked great. Struggled again. He had this, whatever this groin nonsense was. And now we're in the midst of no games. They're not playing. They're over in France. And yeah, takes a while to get over there on your big flying baguette. Is that racist? Probably is. Haliburton, what's going on? Well, he's the 61st ranked player over the last 2 weeks. And yeah, I thought he could be a first round player this season. I don't think he can be the rest of the year. I've got him ranked about 26th the rest of the season. There's just something that's just off. And that's okay. We make adjustments. Things come in, new information comes in. I'm not going to be rigid. I'm not going to be rigid in my thoughts. I'm always going to be taking in new information and adjusting. Not too quickly. Not too slowly, I hope. If anything, I'm usually on the slow side. But he's also just not doing enough. He's averaging 18 and 9 for the season. He's been a 20 and 10 guy the last 2 years. But at the moment, 14 points a game, 1.5 threes. It's pretty obvious what is going on here. He's just not hitting threes again. 32% from deep. Okay? So he's at 36% from the season. He was at 36 from 3 last season. He was at 40 and 41 the last 2 seasons. But he's down to 32 at the moment. He's only hitting 1.4 threes a game. That's half his season total. He's at 2.8 this season from 3, 2.8 last season. He's at 1.4. His usage is down. It's at 20%. He's at 22 for the season. All right, so not enough shots being taken. His minutes are fine. Oh, actually, you know what? They're not. He's at 30 minutes a game over the last 5 games. He needs to play more. He's not getting to the line. He's at 3.2 attempts per game. He's at 1.6 over the last 5. And yeah, the groin injury part of it is there. And he had that game where he left early, I believe, yeah. And then he came back, and the last 2 games since he came back have been a bit iffy. But that's okay. We take advantage of that. Because it's baked into these numbers, but not everyone remembers that. So when we're talking about trading for Haliburton, you're not giving up a first or a second round player. Honestly, I wouldn't try to buy him low with a third at the moment. But they're not playing any games. He's had multiple injury scares. He's had multiple stinking runs. If you can get him for a 4th rounder, do it. If you can get him for a guy averaging 35 fantasy points, do it. I would. I'd be very happy to do it. Yes, he feels like he's going to be frustrating. And I think that's really possible. He might just be frustrating. But I think that a lot of the stuff here, the low threes, this incredibly low scoring, the low percentages, all that stuff's going to bounce back. It's not going to stay as bad as it looks there. I feel pretty confident that we're not going to be sitting with Haliburton at that level of production. The next player has been on these lists a few times. I think he's been on it. Let me have a look. Where has he been on? He was on in week 9 as a sell high. And he's only been on once. Been on once in week 9 as a sell high. And now the pendulum has swung on maximum Derrick White. I think you knew that Derrick White was going to be on this show because he is struggling. He's 163rd over the last 2 weeks. I am a huge Derrick White guy, and I have been for years. One of my best sort of scouting success stories. Right? Plenty I'll get wrong. Shout out to Killian Hayes. This is one of my success stories. But also in fantasy, I have not been as high on White as others, where people go, I'm taking him round 2, round 3. I go, hey, can you guys settle down? That is not a winning strategy in my mind. So I only have him ranked like 68th the rest of the season. I've got him projected at like 33 fantasy points. But he's averaging under 23 the last 2 weeks. For the season, he's at 16, 4.5, and 4, with 1.3 blocks and a steal. He is just well off at the moment. Number one, the easy thing to look at, is playing under 30 minutes a night over the last 2 weeks. And some of that is just Boston and Boston blowouts and that sort of stuff. But there was also a game in there where Peyton Pritchard played over him because he just couldn't do anything. And there'll be weirdness like that happening. But look at these numbers. 2.5 assists, 32% from the field, not from 3, from the field. 44 true shooting, 22 from 3. He's not getting to the line. He's scoring 9 points a game. He's the most obvious stuff you'll ever see. Now, do I think that he's going to be a 16 point per game scorer? Like maybe, but it's not guaranteed. His usage is down. His shooting is down. His minutes are down. His defensive stats are all still there. His assist rate has disappeared. It's all down. So, to me, it is, as much as I'm not as high on him as what other people are, that's okay, because there's so much room here. I don't know how much people will panic on Derrick White. They probably won't at all, honestly. They probably won't. But that's okay. Half of the value, I think, in these shows, and in me doing them, and in you doing them, and you listening to them or whatever, is knowing that this guy, there's stuff here that's it's not just about an overall rank. It's not about what are your fantasy points doing. That's surface level stuff. Idiots can look at that stuff and tell you, this guy's actually 70th, so you know what? Like, that's not the point. It's about how, why, will it stay? Has it a chance of being that bad? I don't know. But that's what we try and dig into. So it's like, if you've got Derrick White, you go, man, he's really struggling. What do I do? Well, this stuff isn't going to hold. He's not going to be a 32% shooter. He's not going to play under 30 minutes a night. He's not going to do any of this stuff. This is all going to improve. And whether you can get a trade for that or not, I don't know. That's really up to you, your negotiation, how your league works. But it's also just more about hey, this is just not holding, man. Like, he's not going to be this bad. It is 100% improving. Otherwise, because like I always like to say, if it's not improving, he just wouldn't be in the league with these numbers. You couldn't play somebody, Killian Hayes, who's shooting 30% from the field. He wouldn't play on the Celtics if this was what he was as a real player. He wouldn't play. So you know it's going to improve. Unless maybe he's just fully cooked and washed. He's not, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. We've got one more to do. There will be a separate Sell High show as well coming. So stick around for that one. Last player on the buy low list. This one, I don't know if it's controversial. I don't think so. But Alexandre Sarr. He's a rookie. So you might say, well, what are you basing it on that he's a buy low? He doesn't have years of history. And that's very clearly true. I've got him at the moment 120th in category leagues rest of season, about 31 fantasy points rest of season. But I think that you need to be careful, and this is where projections and averages, we're halfway through the season, right? Where these things can really lead you astray. Because I do think that, like, I have him projected 120th. But I think basically every day from here on out, as we move towards the end of the season, that projection will come in. Because if I was to break it up and say, what do I think over the next 20 games for Sarr, maybe he's the 130th best player. And the 20 games after that, maybe he's the 90th best player, which averages out to 120th. Or in a fantasy point sense, I think he averages 28 fantasy points for the next 2 weeks. And then it's 29, then it's 30, then it's 31, then it's 32, then it's 33, then it's 34, then it's 36. So as we go along, everything ramps up. But yeah, when you see it, like, oh, you've only got him as 120th rest of the season, a 31 fantasy point guy. Josh, that's like in my 10 team, and that's actually borderline. Why would I bother? Well, as each day passes, as we go through the season, those numbers, the ramp up keeps going up. Well, that's how ramps work. He's only averaging 11 and 7 this season. He's shooting 40% and 64% from the field. They're killers. They're Westbrookian. They're bad. Bad numbers. He's blocking 1.5 shots a game. He is hitting 1.5 threes. And we're in a real lean patch here for Sarr. Under 10 points a game over the last 2 weeks. No one's impressed by that. That's really bad. He's at only 1.1 blocks, and that's the thing that he hangs his hat on. 1.1 blocks, not enough. 30% from 3. Actually, he wishes it was 30. 29.7. What about that 2-point number? 34.1. You are a big man. You are a center. 34% on 2s. Come on. Now, he's only at 46% from 2 for the season. Terrible. His inside the arc finishing is horrendous. Horrendous. But I do believe that a rookie, a talented rookie like this, will have a run. A 6-week run or whatever it is. To end the season where he'll go 55% from 2. He'll go 36% from 3. He'll block 2 shots. He'll play 30 minutes. He'll go 15 and 8 with 2 blocks and 2 assists on good percentages and have a top 60 run at one point. I don't know when it is. But it is going to occur at some point. I feel confident about that. Now, that could not happen because of many reasons. A, he's bad. Possible. B, he gets injured. But I don't think he's sticking at 26 minutes or 9.9 points or a true shooting of 41%. That is horrendous. And his season true shooting is 49. His last 24 game true shooting is 52. So he can be a true shooting 55 guy. Easy. Why couldn't he be over a period of time here? What do you have to give up to get him? Nothing. Your worst player? Take the chance on it. People will be like, what am I doing with this guy? Now, again, a lot of people will have him and go, I'm waiting for the improvement. I know the improvement as a general rule comes. And, we've had that experience in doing that. But not everyone has that, and not everyone thinks that. Or people go, well, maybe this one's different, and maybe it is. We love to play the probabilities, the likelihoods. It'll bite us. Absolutely, it'll bite us. But I think we're at that period now, January the 22nd, National Hot Sauce Day, where we are halfway through the season, more than halfway through the fantasy season, where the likelihood is that these younger players, things open up, the game slows down, the numbers rise, the minutes rise, the responsibility rises. And from here on out, I would expect it to be significantly better for Alex Sarr. I hope so anyway. So I don't think you have to give up much to get him. If he's on your waiver wire, I would grab him and just see. That other manager might be annoyed. They might be sitting 7th in the standings. I need to make the playoffs, man. And you can therefore take advantage of it. But I'd be surprised if it's worse from here on out for Sarr. I'd be surprised. But, I get surprised at times. They're the buy lows. We banged them out. 5 of them. Who were they? Well, I'll tell you right now. Number 1 on the buy low list was Paolo Banchero, Evan Mobley, Tyrese Haliburton, Maximum Derrick White, and Alex Sarr. Take a guess who you think is going to be on the Sell High show, which is going to come up soon. Check it out. In the meantime, you know what to do. Go subscribe, double bang, hit the bell, audio, video, live trade deadline show. It's all there. And we are heading to the outro of the show. And what I want you to do, of course, is just you keep it positive. You know, you look at Alex Sarr and you go, that's disgusting. That's really bad. But does he sit there and say that about himself? Or he's going, no, I'm better than this. I did something good here. That's how you should do it. I don't know. I can't. Maybe I don't want to get inside that man's head, giggity. But we can all do something better with ourselves. And it's just by acknowledging not everything is bad. Simple statement, factual. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.